Hello guys, welcome back to Winding Down. We are back again with an amazing episode. Today we are joined by Mr. Toki Mohoto. I hope I'm pronouncing your surname correctly, yes. Mohoto. But before we speak to him and get to know anything about him, please give a warm round of applause for my co-host Umasamgele Boka.
Thank you so much, Zama, and welcome to Winding Down. And as usual, we are going to have an amazing episode.
And we are going to pour the wine?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Tradition time.
Mm-hmm. Do the honors, please.
Oh, thank you very much.
Welcome, Mr. Mohoto. Yeah. So tell us about Toki. How did you first get the name Toki? What is the meaning behind the name Toki?
So obviously I'm Soto, and in our culture we have what we call hurrehella, meaning to remember someone or to reincarnate or to resurrect someone. Okay. So I'm a reincarnation of an elder from my family. His name was Toki. But the name Toki is originally Japanese, as far as I understand.
It's not Soto?
No, it's not. No relation to Soto. There's no explanation for it in Soto as well.
Okay.
So it usually gets given to girls, and it's translated time of opportunity.
Oh, wow.
So basically that's what I understand it to be. And obviously
that's a nice meaning, very interesting meaning. Yeah. Time, okay.
Yeah, except for it gets given to girls part. I hope they'll cut that
part. But it's an interesting
name.
It
is, definitely it is.
Wanna shoot the game?
So, we have a game.
Sure. It's just a game.
Easy up, wine down, sipping down some wine.
So
basically, we're just gonna ask you questions.
With question, and then you just shoot at the top of your head.
You don't think about it.
I'm ready.
Don't think too deep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll start Zamarat.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self advice, what would it be?
Run away from church.
Pure.
Run away from church, run away from church, run away from church.
Yeah. I want to ask what? I want to get deeper, but now it's a game. We can't get deeper. Okay, fine. Okay, second question. What is your signature dance move? Break dance.
Ungenzani.
Okay. But that's it. Okay.
Okay. So would you choose prison or any of your exes?
I'll choose prison.
Okay. They were bad.
No. I'm not allowed to explain.
No, don't explain. Don't explain. Okay. What set of items could you buy that would make the cashier very uncomfortable? What are you buying?
A dildo. A lubricant.
Okay.
As well as Durex.
Okay. The condoms.
Yeah, the studded ones.
Yeah, the studded ones.
Wait, what's the dildo for?
Just to make the cashier uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you choose orgasm or wine?
Wine, any day.
Okay. Wine, okay. If you could meet anyone in this world today, who would you want to meet? Anyone?
It'll have to be Trevor Gardner.
Trevor Gardner.
Trevor Gardner is the guy behind the movie The Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh.
Yeah, I think I connect with him.
Okay.
Do you believe that love is blind?
Totally.
Okay. If you were given the chance to make one of your wishes come true, what would that be?
Relocate to Japan.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay. Ass or boobs?
Boobs any day.
Okay. What's one thing that you are glad your mother doesn't know about you? Okay, now she'd know, but if she watches, okay, what's one thing?
I won't be emotional. That I have a heart condition.
Okay.
Your mom doesn't know?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that brings us to the end of our game. Cheers to that.
Okay. Cheers.
So what did you study, if you ever studied anything professional?
So what I studied was a diploma in business management, and then followed with a short course on neuro-linguistic programming, because we needed to understand business psychology. And then I've studied as both a facilitator and an assessor. So meaning I can train as well as
facilitate trainings.
People And then I've also studied what they call basics of law at the University of South Africa. And then I've also studied something to do with the creative and cultural economy. I'm not sure what they call it, but I can go and start an institution, and also I can finish it if I need to. But my background has always been in management consulting. Yeah. The focus was on human resource development. So from organizational design to basics of labor law to also training and development. So those were my focus. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. You are very knowledgeable. So yeah, and you've written 3 books, right? So since you've written 3 books, would you consider yourself a renowned author or?
Here are the books.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay, another question. In life, we all have defining moments in life as we grow, as we evolve. It can be loss, any type of loss. Sometimes it doesn't have to be loss. It can be anything that makes you feel like now I have to redefine who I am and how I live. So I just want you to give me 2 of your most defining moments in life, a point where you saw that no, now I have to redefine who Toki is, have to redefine how Toki lives or how Toki sees the world at large. Yeah.
So I'm not invalidating your initial comment to say it mustn't necessarily be loss.
Yes, yeah. That's why I said it's not only loss.
The most critical and memorable turning point was the loss of my late sister, who died due to suicide, right? She committed suicide in 2014. Yeah. Very, very critical in the sense that I'd also come back from an abusive domestic environment, right? And I had almost numbed it down because I came from a churchy environment and we were always told that tigers don't cry, they bleed and die. So I was slowly dying internally, right? And I only woke up and realized that abuse and domestic violence is a reality when my sister committed suicide. Why did it become a defining moment for me? It is because I wrote a book which I'm very, not only passionate about, but I felt that's where I invested myself. I almost became naked when I wrote that book because anything and everything within me was just attuned to writing that book. I wrote it in about 2 weeks, 345 pages long. There were moments when I couldn't eat. And it started as me writing a letter to say, I now understand why you had been insisting to visit me. She was trying to escape from something, but because I was also obsessed with my own way of doing things and my own career in life, only I was asked not to cry, but it's difficult not to be emotional. So I think that was the most critical moment in my life. And out of that, I even think changed my career because at the time I was working in Johannesburg in the private sector, right? And we were doing part of what we call management consulting. And from there on, it also led to my discovering my calling, my ancestral calling. So I think it was an interesting trigger in the sense that it unraveled a dimension, yes. Multiple dimensions, multiple journeys, multiple networks, and interesting, but most importantly, the introspection I'd been almost suppressing intentionally.
Oh yes, so it forced you to look within yourself.
And remember, when you come from a church environment, almost anything and everything that you do becomes a stamp, right, that you leave within your church community. But remember, there's social capital outside of church. So mine was trying to do almost a balancing act here between the 2 worlds, and it was very difficult because I come from a highly traditional family, and now I'm in a churchy environment, and I had to, had to. So my saying to my sister, I now understand what you went through, it then became almost a journey of advocating for the downtrodden, the peripherized, as well as those who do not have a voice. Because subsequent to that, I then got engaged in what they call social entrepreneurship, right? So that's my second big moment. From that moment of loss, I then took that and turned it into a positive turning point, right? Yeah, so from there on, I've been involved in social entrepreneurship. From working with NGOs for people with disabilities to arts institutions, cultural institutions, and also ensuring that people without a voice do get a platform. Always.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. I don't
what
know
a touching story, right?
I don't know what to say.
I know, right?
That was definitely a highly defining moment. Highly, in so many ways. Whoa.
So sometimes in life, right, I won't cry again.
No, cry. Please cry.
So the book Father Hear My Cry, right, I also wrote it in 2016. So I wrote 3 books in 2016, never published. They were vanity projects because it was me trying to understand my own world. and the ecosystem within which I was existing, right? So that is world, family, career, professional ambitions, and all of that. So when I wrote the book, Father Hear My Cry, it was me trying to put myself in the mind of my daughter. I was married then, right? Okay. And my then wife left me because she felt I wasn't as achieving or as eminent as she would have wanted me to be. December 2012, she left me, that's fine. And I kept hearing my daughter saying, but Papa, wankutwana. She speaks into an ear, can you hear me? And I kept insisting, I can, but I can't reach out to you. And then the title came, Father Hear My Cry, because she kept on insisting, because she didn't want to enjoy separation without having understood the real reason behind, right? So I then decided to write a book, but essentially the book is about me, and I took other short stories that I knew about the state of fatherlessness. And because remember, society has always said men are trash, we are trash because we abandon our kids, right? And I wanted to change the narrative to say it doesn't always have to be negative. So the book is a travelogue. It's about a gentleman who leaves home to pursue a better life for his kids. But the daughter keeps on insisting, Father, hear my cry, because your absence has almost exposed us to anything and everything we had not planned for, and which we're not equipped to deal with even, right? Yeah, but it's
so that was something that you had to heal from and find meaning.
But also, added to that, we grew up in a home where my father came back every day, right? He's still with my mom to date. But he was absent in the sense that he came from an environment or from a generation which didn't allow men to be emotional or vulnerable, right? So the only thing I knew him about, or I knew, he's a provider, he smokes, he punishes us.
Oh, basically. The punishment.
So whenever you were in the wrong, you knew. He had what we called cane, right? And he would lash us on the palms and what have you. So we didn't have an emotional connection, right? To a point where when I grew up, people often assumed that I was gay because of my emotional, what's the right word? I was overly expressive, even on the emotional side, right?
Your mother.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. So my masculine side was almost there because of my physique, but my feminine side,
there was no anchoring of the masculinity.
None whatsoever. There was no example. There was no feedback from me to say, because a man acts like this, right? And remember, we grew up in a township where, emerging from the violence of 93-94, political violence between the then political parties, ANC, IFP, you had to find a hero somewhere. And the heroes we had were thugs, criminal elements, drug dealers, everything, you know. And so for me, I cried and said, Father, hear my cry. Please reach out to me as I'm trying to reach out to you. And he couldn't hear me because he also had to act strong. Because had he allowed himself to be vulnerable, then he would have lost social capital. And then perhaps even the home environment wouldn't have given him the authority he felt he deserved at the time.
Perhaps he didn't even know how to be a father without those elements.
Exactly. Yes.
Should be.
Wait, what I want to understand, you said he would have lost social capital. What do you mean by that?
So in townships, I think a definer of a man is you must be employed, you must marry someone, you must have kids to your name.
Yes.
So if I were a man and I chose not to have kids, there'll be question marks around, exactly. You're not man enough, you're not complete, right? If you are employed at home, you'd even find in certain ceremonies that you have some opinion, right? But if you're unemployed, nobody sees you. True. Even the community doesn't recognize you. So he emerged from that environment.
Married now.
Definitely.
So he emerged from?
The environment where a man was only defined by you are employed, you married someone, you have kids. Case closed.
That is your status. That is what you must have to be considered.
Whatever you are internally, whatever you wished for, whatever aspirations you had, they could not supersede those three fundamentals, right? So I can almost understand where he was emotionally unavailable. And then for me to have kids who are now begging for me to be emotionally available to them, right? And the only thing I could master or at the time come up with was, Father, hear my cry. And also another reason for me writing the book was to become so popular to a point where my kids will see me as being beyond what their mom at the time thought I could never achieve. Hence I'm saying those were just vanity projects. But the underlying reason was for me to be popular enough for them to see me someday and say, but we have a dad.
Exactly. Or maybe to even have a story that they can go back to and read. This is what was happening with our father actually, not what we heard or saw. This is the real story.
Definitely.
Yes, I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, so your dad, why lo muntu oyena, because wayefuna ukuplease society ukuthi kahle kahle mina ngubaba oqotho but kahle kahle akasiyena ubaba. I'm not saying asiyena ubaba oqotho. Oh Lord. But I'm just saying ukuthi wayefuna ukuplease society.
Not necessarily please, but to fit in
Oh, to fit
to fit in, because remember, society through social science, they box us. Never mind your gendered roles, never mind your physical attributes. They often say a male figure must be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you do not fit in, society doesn't recognize you as
A female figure must be one, like we are
special. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. So that is why you find yourself struggling whenever you feel like you don't meet those standards.
Because it's Pilela Bantu, that's why, guys.
No, definitely,
Pilela
definitely.
Bantu, and yeah, guys, we just need to change.
But I think you were able to break that pattern. Would you say you were able?
To a degree, because remember, when you're a male person, you need to understand what masculinity is.
Yeah.
You need to also appreciate your gendered role for you to merge these three and then know who you are, how you assert yourself in society. So again, we were born in the township where you were not allowed to understand and fumble about. You had to find a role model, whether that was conscious or unconscious, but there needed to be someone that you were following or mirroring. So we never got to, I only now understand. And funny enough, I only got to understand the three I spoke about when I then had a colleague. I say colleague because we went to the same church together, right? And obviously he's late now. Jabulani used to say to me, his name was Jabulani. So he grew up with a mother. There was no father in his home, right? And obviously his other siblings were female. So naturally he gravitated toward femininity, right? So when he grew up, he couldn't go to a male-only toilet in church because he would feel uncomfortable when we walk in. But neither was he allowed to go into a female-only toilet. That was the reason why he left church. But he said to me, you may find that during the day, most men appear to be detesting me, but after hours, most come and confide in me. So he had the best of both worlds. And obviously, definitely, obviously as a curious person, you'd obviously ask, what do you mean the best of both worlds? And then he would then unpack these different dynamics. This is who you are as a male person, but you behave this way because
Of the exceptional standards. When you were speaking about your story, you said you were taught that tigers don't cry, they bleed and die. That touched me because it is a typical stigma around what male should be, a male figure. And that's deep.
Definitely. At some point I was invited to a show where we looked at male rape survivors. It was so uncomfortable because not many people in society want to accept that something negative can befall men. You're a hero, most. How can you say you were raped because you also got an ejaculation, you were also erect? You must have enjoyed it because it is perceived and assumed that a male person must always be ready, whether it be violence, whether it be success, whether it be anything. And there's a lady in America, forgotten her name, who's being criticized left, right, and center because she says male persons have suffered worse violence, worse imprisonment as a result of being in a female's life. He speaks about marriage, he speaks about what society says.
I agree with that. We see it every day. We do. Social media is a typical example of how
from girlfriend allowance.
But anyways, we just want to know, before Svalanje, what has been your proudest moment? Ooh, Lily Wayne, guys. Your proudest moment as a father or in fatherhood?
I think my proudest moment was after having been separated from my kids for such a long time. The first conversation I had with my daughter, she says, Papa, in Setswana, Papa, ke a go rata. I still believe you can be the hero that I long for, and just know wherever you are that we want you back. Proudest moment, because you'd assume that after separation for a long time, and you're not sure how many male persons have come in and out of their lives, and you're not sure how much indoctrination has taken place to say, forget about that scumbag. A child will still come back and say, the memories I have of you is what I cherish. Please revive them. And I still love you the same way I did. Proudest moment ever.
Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. Thank you so much for tuning in today and joining us today on our amazing episode with Toki Mohoto on fatherhood and his life journey. Don't forget to engage with us down on the comment section. Ask questions. Be alive, please. Can we cheers to that?
Cheers.
Winding down conversations through the grapevine.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.